All right, today we're going to dig into one of the most common, but maybe one of the most misunderstood tools in your entire garden kit, the humble garden trowel. It looks so simple, right? But getting the details right can totally transform your planting experience. Let's get into it.
You know that feeling, right? You're out there trying to get a bunch of seedlings in the ground and the work just feels off. That simple little task of digging a hole suddenly turns into a real struggle. Well, turns out a lot of that frustration comes right back to the tool that's in your hand. I mean, does any of this sound familiar to you? The holes you dig just cave in on themselves. The delicate little roots get torn. Your transplants are all wobbly and they just won't sit straight. And what about that sore wrist? Or that feeling that you're literally dragging the trowel through concrete? These are all classic symptoms of a mismatch between your tool, your soil, and how you're using it.
So, what if the problem isn't about how strong you are, but about your whole strategy? Let's totally reframe how we think about this tool. It's not a mini shovel for brute force. No, its real job is something way more refined. Okay, so this is the absolute key right here. A trowel is a precision instrument. It's all about control, not power. The second you stop trying to force it and you start guiding it, everything about planting just gets so much better. So let's get really specific. A garden trowel is made for precise work in a really small area. We're talking about moving handfuls of soil, not big shovel loads. This is what lets you create that perfect little pocket for a new plant without messing up all the soil around it. And check this out. That typical blade length, somewhere between 6 and 8 inches, that's not random. It's perfectly designed to match the size of the root ball on most of the vegetable starts you're going to buy. That design lets the blade open up a clean hole so the sides don't immediately collapse. Okay, so understanding what the trowel is for is half the battle. The other half? It's picking the right blade for the right job. Let's take a look at the options. This really breaks down the 3 main types you'll see. A pointed trowel, that's your go-to for breaking into tougher, more compacted ground. Then you've got the wider transplanting trowel. It often has little depth markings on it, and it's perfect for making consistent holes in soil that's already been worked. And finally, that narrow blade gives you almost surgical precision for weeding in crowded spots without hurting any nearby roots. The material of the blade itself makes a huge difference too. Stainless steel is super forgiving. It resists rust, it glides through damp soil, but its edge might not stay sharp quite as long. Carbon steel, on the other hand, can hold a razor-sharp edge that cuts so cleanly, but you absolutely have to clean and dry it to stop it from rusting. So it's a trade-off, really. Low maintenance versus high performance. Now that we've covered the tool itself, let's talk about the person holding it, you. Using a trowel well is just as much about ergonomics and technique as it is about the blade. We've all been there, haven't we? That dull ache that just starts building up in your wrist and your forearm? Well, that fatigue is usually caused by the handle's design long before the blade itself is even an issue. So what should you be looking for? Well, a good handle spreads the pressure evenly across your palm, usually with a diameter of about 1¼ to 1½ inches. An oval shape is great because it stops the tool from twisting in your hand. And you want a grip that stays secure even when it's wet, and the whole tool should feel balanced, not super heavy at the blade. These little details make a massive difference over a long day of planting. Ultimately, it just comes down to this. A comfortable grip means less fatigue, and less fatigue means better precision. You can actually feel what the soil is doing and respond to it, instead of just trying to force the tool through it. It really changes the work from a chore to something, well, more connected. And remember to adapt your technique to where you're planting. You know, in a raised bed with nice loose soil, you might use 2 smaller scoops instead of 1 deep one to keep the hole from caving in. In a container, you'd use shorter strokes to avoid hitting roots along the edge. And in organic beds, you want to use the trowel like a scalpel. Just slice, lift, and replace to preserve that amazing soil structure you've built up. Okay, so you've chosen the right tool and you've learned the right technique. Now, let's talk about making that tool last. A great tool is an investment, and a few simple habits will keep your trowel in amazing condition for years. That means it's going to cut cleanly and feel smooth every single time you pick it up. And honestly, it's just 3 really simple steps. First, always clean the tool after you're done. A quick rinse and a brush off stops all that grit and moisture from causing damage. Second, every now and then, sharpen the edge with a file to keep that clean, slicing action. A sharp edge means less work for you. And third, just store it somewhere dry with good airflow. And that also means avoiding these super common mistakes.
Don't leave mud caked on the blade overnight. Don't just toss it in a wet bucket. And please, don't let the blades sit on a concrete floor, which can trap moisture right against the metal. These are the habits that lead to rust and a tool that fights you instead of helping you. The source material puts it beautifully. It says small signals appear early. Your tool and your body, they'll tell you when something is wrong. A dull edge, a sore wrist, a wobbly handle. Catching these little signals early keeps your gardening productive instead of just exhausting. So the next time you're in the garden, just take a second and listen. Is your tool gliding through the soil, or are you having to force it? Does your wrist feel relaxed, or is it strained? Paying attention to those tiny details is going to reduce your effort, protect your plants, and just make your time in the garden that much more enjoyable. So what is your trowel telling you?